Alright everyone, I just want to make sure we kind of know some definitive properties over our study guide here. Just make sure that you know if you have an equilateral triangle, the sides are congruent. And if sides are congruent, sorry, let me move this over here. If sides are congruent, you very simply would know that those two equal each other. So you can simply say 5x minus 6 equals 3x plus 2. Subtract your 3x. You would get 2x minus 6 equals 2. Add the 6, you get 8, divide by 2, and x will equal 4. So you know x is 4 here. Now this one, you've got this angle here. And one angle in a equilateral triangle is 60 degrees. So this is 60, this is 60, this is 60, but you want to find y. So you would say, oh, well that angle is supposed to equal 60, so 5y equals 60, so y equals 12. Now moving on to isosceles, these have congruent base angles, and they don't necessarily have to be at the base, but they have two base angles, and then they would have two congruent sides, and those are always directly across from each other. And again, two sides congruent, then they will be equal. Like that. Subtract the 4, and this is going to give you 7. So this one right here is what can throw most people in for a loop. So remember, this is isosceles now. You get two sides. That means two of the angles are going to be congruent. So just be very careful. Sometimes you can think, well, if I can wall off one of my angles, like this, if I drew a little line, kind of cage that in there, then these are my two base angles. The other thing you can think, they are directly opposite of each other. So this side corresponds to this side corresponds to this, so this has to be 3x. And then inside of a triangle, you know everything adds up. Oops, sorry. You know everything adds up plus 4x equals 180. And any triangle all adds up to 180. So you can 3x, 4x equals 180. You end up getting 10x equals 180. X equals 18. Looking at this one, just be very aware of where your sides are pointing to. Okay, it wants us to find this angle and this angle. So make sure not every time you're just thinking, triangles and this and that. If you have two angles next to each other that make a straight line, together those make 180 degrees. Well, we have 125. If you did 180 minus 125, you'd have 55. So that's 55. And then now look at your triangle properties. Well, figure out what your base angles are. If I kind of drew my lines over here, I would know that this becomes 55, and now I need to find this guy. Well, this just goes back to a basic triangle problem. All three angles add up to 180, so 55 plus something equal to 180. So 110 plus something equals 180. Subtract the 110. This guy is 70. Okay? So don't get too stuck or too caught up in that. Make sure you just stay in line with which side and which angles are congruent. You can always think, if I can connect these two here, like if I can go, the two sides can touch each other. See how I'm not touching a side here? Then that angle cannot be my congruent isosceles angle. Okay. All right. Now, thinking about our parallelograms, there's a couple ways you can do this. Remember, the opposite angles are always congruent. The opposite sides are always congruent, even though this one doesn't deal with sides. And then the consecutive angles are supplementary. So it kind of looks like this pattern. If you just want to draw a parallelogram so you can kind of set up your problems, if this is 100, then this angle right here would have to be 80. And the opposite angle would be 100, and this would be 80. So the opposite angles are congruent, but the consecutive angles are 180. So very simply, you can set these two equal. This is what I would do. I would set these two equal, and I would set these two equal. And I would actually solve this one first, because if I come over here, I have x's and y's, so I'm not going to do that one first. So I can divide by 2. And I know now x is 35. And now I can come into what the other stuff I've set up and replace every x with 35. So I can do 3 times 35 plus 5 equals 35 plus 3y, and just kind of go from there. You'd get 105 plus 5 is 110, equal to 35 plus 3y. Subtract the 35, you'd get 75. Divide by 3, and y is 25. Okay, so that's kind of the idea there. You can find one first and then substitute in. Kind of the same thing here. So this is opposite angles are congruent. Now here, opposite sides are congruent. So very simply, this side and this side are congruent, this side and this side are congruent. And if sides are congruent, you just set them equal. So you'll have this equal to this, and that equal to that. So very simply, if you divide by 3, x is 2. You can come over here, because we had x's and y's. We can replace every x now with 2. So we'd have 2 plus 2 equals y minus 1, which is 4 equals y minus 1. Add the 1, you get 5. Or what minus 1 would give you 4? 5 would. Okay? So just know if this you have the sides, those are just set equal to each other. Another property is that the diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so basically this piece becomes congruent to this piece, and this piece becomes congruent to this. And if they're congruent, if you know this, that equals that, and that equals that. This piece is congruent to this piece, this is congruent to this. So you get 3x equals 12, and you'd have x plus y equals 5y. So I can divide by 3, x is 4, and now I can replace every x with 4. So I get 4 plus y equals 5y, minus the y, and then I can divide by 4, so y is 1. So 3 big properties. So opposite angles are congruent, opposite sides are congruent, and the diagonals bisect each other, cut each other in half. By the way, that means that that's a midpoint. Don't forget that. Okay, if you have a midpoint, that means that those pieces are congruent now. Okay. Looking on the back, do know that in a parallelogram you need to know these things, because I mean obviously they help you set your problems up. Diagonals bisect each other, opposite angles congruent, consecutive angles are supplementary, opposite sides are congruent. This one is not true. This is true for all quadrilaterals, everything has to 360. And then this right here is the definition. That all opposite sides are parallel. Alright. So looking at these are very simple now. Because now, hey, opposite sides, they're congruent, you would set those equal. Right? These are opposite angles, so I would just say, oh, 5x minus 9 equals 3x plus 11. You're done. And then solve it, you're good. This one was a little confusing because you're actually finding TSR, which is this angle right here. But if I know 125 is this angle, I know consecutive angles are supplementary. So I would just add them 125 plus this angle equal to 180. So they add to 180. Right, because I know this angle over here is 125, right, because opposite. But consecutive, they add to 180. So I just say measurement of angle TSR plus 125 equals 180. Subtract 125, you get 55. Finally, looking at these, this right here, that is consecutive. It's the next angle. That angle goes to that angle. Therefore, they equal 180. They add up and equal 180. Because hey, that one's going to be 80 down here, so I need something to give me 180. You could add the 10, or 80 minus 10 is 70. Subtract the 70 would be 110. And you go from there. Okay, and I'll have the key up for the answers. This one can be a little tricky. UH is 19. Okay. FH 5x minus 7 is this whole thing. So pay very close attention to what you're looking at. All right. So basically, you have the line. Okay, so H, then U, then F. This is 19. FH is 5x minus 7. If I know this piece is 19, though, the diagonals are bisected, so I know this is congruent to this, so this also has to be 19. Therefore, I have something like this. And this goes back to the segment addition postulate, where you would say 19 plus 19 equals the whole thing, okay, because FH is this whole thing, so you just simply say 19 plus 19 equals 5x minus 7. You get 38 equals 5x minus 7. Add the 7, you get 45 equals 5x, divide by 5, and x equals 9. Okay. The final one, KU and UM, so let's look, where's that on my paper? KU, 3x plus 3. UM, 4x minus 4. Well, that's the two pieces of my diagonal. I know that's congruent to that. So you very simply just say 3x plus 3 equals 4x minus 4 and go through and solve. And that's pretty much it. Do remember some of your proofs. And I'll send the key out that has the proofs on here. But just know, hey, parallelogram, you got parallel sides. Then you can prove, alternate interior angles. You got a reflexive side there, angle side angle, and then you can prove everything by CPCTC. Okay. So other than that, if you need more help, please ask me. Please come by, and go from there. So study hard, and I believe in you.